Have you ever felt as if you were standing between two worlds? One side is the old life you've known, but it feels too tight, like clothes that no longer fit. The other side is a doorway not yet opened, uncertain. Haze. But somehow calling your name, the tiredness, the confusion, even the strange dreams that visit you at night. None of these are accidents. They are signals, quiet whispers that your consciousness is reorganizing itself, preparing you for a leap that is far bigger than you've ever imagined. This is not weakness, and it is not failure. It is a rebirth in disguise. Think of a butterfly inside its cocoon. To anyone watching from the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. But inside, the caterpillar has dissolved into what biologists call imaginal cells, pure potential, waiting to take form. That is where you are right now. On the outside, you may look unchanged, but inside, your very structure, your thoughts, your emotions, even your cells are preparing for a new expression of life. The exhaustion you feel, the sense that you can't push forward in the old way. It is not a problem to solve. It is a sign that your system is rewiring itself. Neuroscientists have discovered that the brain often consumes more energy at rest than in activity. That means even when you think nothing is happening, your inner world is working overtime, reconfiguring, weaving together new connections that will serve the next stage of your life. And then, there's time. Have you noticed how differently time feels lately? Minutes stretching into hours, days vanishing in a blink. This is not your imagination. When your awareness expands, time becomes less like a straight road and more like a river. Sometimes it rushes, sometimes it slows, but it is never as rigid as we once believed. Einstein reminded us that time bends to the observer's frame of reference. And as your consciousness expands, your frame of reference stretches beyond what the clock on the wall can measure. Dreams have also been shifting. Perhaps they feel more vivid, more symbolic, sometimes even more real than waking life. That is because the barrier between your conscious and unconscious mind is thinning. Your dreams are not just random stories, they are rehearsals, fragments of the new reality being born inside you. Pay attention to them, for they are showing you glimpses of who you are becoming. And yes, the loneliness you might feel, it is not punishment. It is protection. When you step into a new frequency, the old world doesn't quite fit anymore. People, habits, or situations that once felt familiar may now feel strangely heavy, mismatched. This separation is not rejection. It is the universe giving you space to grow without being pulled back into what no longer serves you. Even your body is participating in this transformation. Epigenetics shows us that our beliefs and emotions can switch genes on or off, rewriting our biology. What you believe about yourself and about life is literally shaping your cells. You are not just thinking differently. Your body is reorganizing itself to match your emerging awareness. Of course, the ego resists. The ego is that old skin, the identity you've carried for years. It whispers, "Stay the same. It's safer here." But growth always feels uncomfortable at first. Just as a snake must endure the pressure of skin that has grown too tight, you too are outgrowing the old shell. That discomfort is not a sign to turn back. It is proof that you are ready to expand. And here's the beautiful part. You are not doing this alone. Every person who allows themselves to awaken contributes to what scientists call the morphic field, a collective field of consciousness that makes it easier for others to awaken too. Your courage to walk through this uncertainty is not only for you, it is an invisible gift you are offering to countless others, rippling outward through the fabric of reality. So the invitation is simple. Stop fighting the tiredness, the strangeness, the uncertainty. Let it be. Like a river that no longer struggles to run uphill, you too can flow by trusting the current of this transformation. The intelligence that designed the stars is the same intelligence that now reorganizes you, It knows exactly what it's doing. You are not standing at the end of something. You are standing at the threshold of a new beginning. And even if you can't see the full picture yet, your future self already can. That self is calling you forward, preparing the ground, planting the seeds. All you need to do is allow, breathe, and trust. Because the truth is, you are not losing yourself. You are becoming more of who you truly are. 1. The resistance of the ego. The ego is a fragile thing. Though it pretends to be strong, it is the voice inside that insists stay the same. Don't change. If you let go of who you've been, you will disappear. And because that voice feels so personal, many of us believe it. We think the shaking of our old identity means something is going wrong, when in truth it is simply the sound of a new self knocking at the door. Change feels dangerous to the ego because its survival depends on continuity. The ego is built from memories, roles, habits, and stories you've told yourself for years. When those structures begin to dissolve, the ego interprets it as death. But you are not your ego. You are the awareness that sees it. You are the spaciousness in which the story arises and fades. Imagine a snake whose skin has grown too tight. At first, the discomfort is mild, an itch that can be ignored. But as the body expands, the skin becomes unbearable. The snake does not die when it sheds. It is reborn into freedom. The same is true for you. The tightness you feel in your life is not a punishment. It is life pressing you to shed what no longer fits. A false sense of safety. The ego resists because it confuses the familiar with the safe. It clings to routines, relationships, and even anything that proves continuity. That is why you sometimes hold on to situations you know are harmful. Simply because they are known. The unknown terrifies the ego, but the unknown is the birthplace of everything new. You may feel the ego whispering, if you let go, you'll lose control. If you step into change, you'll lose yourself. The truth is gentler. You do not lose yourself. You lose only the shell that has grown too small. The self that remains is more authentic, more alive, and far closer to the essence of who you are, the inner battle. This resistance creates an inner battle. Part of you longs for freedom, while another part fights to keep things as they are. You may experience this as doubt, procrastination, or even physical fatigue. But pause for a moment and notice what is actually happening beneath the struggle. Often, it is not that you are weak, but that your system is rearranging itself. The ego resists because it wants clarity and control. But transformation is messy. It rarely announces itself politely. It breaks. It bends. It shakes things apart. Just as the caterpillar melts into imaginal soup inside the cocoon, you too must allow the dissolving of form before a new one can emerge. The deeper truth is this: the ego cannot be destroyed, nor does it need to be. It is simply a tool, like a mask an actor wears on stage, useful for a role, but never the whole story. When you believe you are the mask, life feels suffocating. When you realize you are the actor behind it, you can wear it lightly and set it down when it no longer serves the scene. Resistance softens when you stop identifying with the mask. Instead of fighting the ego, you learn to see it with compassion. You recognize it as a frightened child, clutching its toys because it cannot yet imagine playing with something new. And just as you would not tear the toys from a child's hand in anger, you do not need to attack your ego. You simply grow beyond it until it releases its grip naturally. A gentle allowing. The way through is not force. It is allowing, like rivers that no longer strain to flow uphill. You too can rest into the natural current of change. When you soften, the ego's resistance begins to lose its power. Awareness grows, and with it, a new stability. A stability not based on fixed identity, but on trust in life itself. So, If you find yourself wrestling with the fear of change, remember this: it is not you that is afraid. It is the story of you, the old structure trembling as it prepares to dissolve. The essence of who you are, the awareness watching all of this unfold, remains untouched, steady, eternal. And as you trust this awareness, you discover a simple but profound freedom. You do not need to fight the ego, nor obey it. You only need to keep walking, step by step, into the spaciousness that is already waiting for you. 2. Biological change. There is a quiet revolution happening inside your body. Even in the moments when nothing seems to be moving, while the mind clings to old stories and the ego trembles at uncertainty, your cells are already listening to a deeper rhythm. Science calls this epigenetics, the discovery that beliefs, emotions, and states of consciousness can literally switch genes on or off, activating some while silencing others. For so long, many of us believed that biology was destiny, fixed and inherited like stone tablets passed down from our ancestors. But what we now understand is far more liberating. Your DNA is more like a vast library of potential, and your awareness chooses which books to open, which chapters to read, and which to leave untouched. Every thought, every feeling, every vibration of consciousness is like a hand reaching into that library, pulling down a story, breathing life into it. When fear, stress, or doubt dominate, the body tunes itself to survival. Muscles tighten, breath shortens, chemicals of vigilance flood the system. But when trust, gratitude, and stillness rise, new programs awaken, those of healing, regeneration, creativity, and resilience. It is the difference between an orchestra playing dissonant noise and the same orchestra unfolding into a gentle, coherent symphony. This is why transformation often feels heavy in the body. Consciousness may awaken in a flash, like lightning across a dark sky, but the body moves more slowly, carefully reorganizing itself to match the shift. It must rewrite tissues, alter chemical balances, rewire networks of neurons. This lag is what you feel as fatigue, strange changes in appetite, sudden emotional waves, or restless sleep. Nothing is broken. You are not failing. Your body is upgrading. Imagine a computer running through an essential update while the programs are reconfiguring. Some functions freeze, others restart, and the whole system feels unreliable. Yet once the update is complete, the machine runs smoother, faster, with abilities it never had before. Your cells are doing exactly that. The body speaks in frequencies. Gratitude is a clear bell, calming your nervous system and releasing hormones of repair. Fear is a jarring note, contracting your gut and flooding you with stress chemistry. A single breath taken in awareness slows the heart. A single thought of forgiveness relaxes muscles that years of tension once bound. This is not just spiritual metaphor, it is measurable biology. You are feeding your cells with every thought you carry, shaping your tissues with every belief you hold on to. And so, if you notice sensitivities arising, foods that suddenly feel heavy, environments that exhaust you, while silence, nature, or stillness feel like nourishment, this is not weakness. It is the body fine-tuning itself to resonate with the new frequency you are stepping into. Like an instrument being restrung, you may hear some discord before the music emerges, but it is precisely in that tension, that adjustment, that a higher harmony is being prepared. The invitation is trust. Discomfort does not mean failure. It means recalibration. Your body is not betraying you. It is serving you. It is following the blueprint of your consciousness with astonishing precision, updating itself to hold more light, more coherence, more life. So when you feel the heaviness, let yourself rest. When thirst calls, drink deeply. When tears or trembling come, allow them. They are not errors. They are messages. The intelligence of your body is speaking, not in words, but in waves of sensation, guiding you into alignment with who you are becoming. One day, you will look back at this stage with gratitude. You will see that the nights of exhaustion, the moments of strangeness, the waves of sensitivity were not the signs of breaking down, but of breaking through. Your biology was not your prison, it was your partner. And through its faithful adjustments, you were being rewritten into a new story. One where you live not as the victim of your body, but as its conductor. Your body, this precious instrument, has been preparing all along to play the higher song of your awakening life. Tria, vivid dreams. In times of transformation, the world of dreams begins to shimmer with a strange intensity, as if the walls between the conscious and the unconscious have grown thin and translucent. What once seemed like random fragments of memory or imagination now arrives with the weight of symbols, carrying a language you may not fully understand yet but can feel in your bones. Dreams take on a texture, a color, a gravity that stays with you even after you wake, leaving traces of something both mysterious and profoundly real. This is not an accident. When you are in the midst of deep change, your subconscious mind works tirelessly to dissolve the old identity and rehearse the new. And it uses the landscape of dreams to do this work. In the stillness of sleep, your body rests, but your soul begins to sketch, to practice, to experiment with new ways of being. It is as if your future self is sending you drafts of the life that is waiting for you, testing how it feels, adjusting the lines before the final shape emerges in waking reality. Many people dismiss their dreams as meaningless, but during times of awakening, they are anything but. They are like secret rehearsals in a quiet theater. Long before the curtain rises on the stage of your waking life, you may notice recurring images: a doorway, a staircase, a flood of light, or perhaps the presence of people you cannot name, yet feel deeply connected to. These are not just accidents of the brain firing in the dark. They are metaphors, woven be your deeper intelligence, teaching you to navigate the territory of what is coming. Pay attention to the themes that arise. A dream of flying may whisper of freedom your waking self has not yet dared to claim. A dream of being lost may mirror the uncertainty of leaving behind the old maps of identity. Even the nightmares serve a purpose, confronting you with the fears that must be dissolved so they no longer control your steps. Think of the dream state as a rehearsal room for consciousness, just as a musician practices scales before a concert, or a painter sketches rough outlines before the final canvas. Your inner self uses dreams to practice existing at the frequency of your future. Some mornings you may wake with the feeling that you have lived an entire lifetime in a single night. And in a sense, you have. The subconscious mind is not bound by time or space, and it weaves its stories in ways the waking mind cannot. That is why certain dreams feel more real than reality, as if you are remembering instead of imagining. They may be glimpses of timelines you are brushing against, probabilities your awareness is beginning to explore. Do not be discouraged if the meanings are not immediately clear. Dreams speak in a language of images and feelings, rather than logic. And sometimes it takes time for the translation to unfold. The important thing is not to analyze every detail with the rational mind, but to feel into them, to let the impressions linger and teach you through resonance. A dream may not tell you what will happen tomorrow, but it will show you who you are becoming. It will hold up a mirror to the transformation that is already underway, long before it takes visible form in your waking life. This is why keeping even a simple journal can be powerful. Writing down the fragments you remember honors the conversation between your conscious and unconscious. It tells your deeper self, I am listening. Over time, patterns reveal themselves, and you begin to notice how your inner journey is guiding your outer one. What seemed chaotic becomes coherent. What felt random begins to form a thread, and slowly, you realize that you are not wandering aimlessly in the dark, but being guided by a wisdom that speaks through the language of dreams. So when your nights are restless, when images crowd your sleep or strange encounters linger in your morning thoughts, do not dismiss them as noise. They are part of the process. They are the gentle sketches of a future life being drawn inside you. Your soul is at the drafting table, rehearsing, rearranging, preparing you for the moment when those possibilities step into the daylight of your waking reality. Trust the process. Let the dreams do their work. They are not distractions from your path. They are the path itself, leading you toward a self you are just beginning to recognize. 4. Loneliness and separation. There comes a moment on the path of transformation when the world you once knew begins to feel strangely distant, as though you are standing in the middle of a crowded room, yet no longer belong to the conversation. Friends, habits, and even familiar places may suddenly feel heavy or misaligned, leaving you with the unsettling sense that you no longer fit. This can be one of the most tender and confusing stages of growth, because it resembles rejection. Yet it is not rejection at all. What you are experiencing is a frequency shift, a quiet separation that allows your system to integrate new energy without interference. It is less about people turning away from you and more about life gently carving out space for your becoming. Loneliness in this light is not punishment but protection, a cocoon around your heart that gives you time to settle into the truth of who you are becoming. If you look closely, you may notice that the relationships or circles you are drifting from are not disappearing because you are unworthy of them, but because they cannot resonate with the person you are unfolding into. It is like tuning a musical instrument when the strings are tightened into a new harmony. Some notes that once blended beautifully no longer fit the melody. The dissonance you feel in old relationships is not evidence of failure. It is simply the sound of your life being retuned. And just as an instrument cannot play every note at once, your soul cannot carry every connection forward. Some must be left behind, so the new song can be heard. During this period, the silence can feel unbearable. You may long for the comfort of old companionships, even as you recognize they no longer nourish you. You may grieve the loss of belonging, wondering if you will ever find your place again. These feelings are natural, and they deserve compassion rather than denial. To pretend you do not feel lonely is to deny your own humanity, but to collapse into the story that you are abandoned is to miss the deeper truth you are in a sacred pause, a necessary interval between the familiar and the new. This pause is what allows your nervous system, your mind, and your body to anchor the higher frequency you are stepping into. Without it, the old energies would continue to pull you back, keeping you bound to patterns that no longer serve your unfolding. Think of the seasons. Winter often feels like emptiness, a barren landscape stripped of color and warmth. Yet beneath the surface, seeds are gestating, roots are deepening, and the soil is preparing itself for spring. Loneliness is the winter of the soul. On the surface, it feels cold and empty. But beneath, everything is quietly rearranging so that new life can burst forth in time. If you can hold your loneliness gently, as you might cradle a fragile bird, you will discover that it carries within it the promise of renewal. In truth, this solitude is an invitation to meet yourself more deeply than ever before. When the external voice is quiet, you begin to hear the inner one. When old roles dissolve, you discover the essence that does not change. Loneliness strips away the distractions that once defined you. And in that stripping, you come face to face with the raw presence of your own being. It is not always comfortable, but it is real, and it is fertile ground for awakening. And while it may feel as if no one understands what you are going through, remember this: many others are walking their own parallel paths of transformation, experiencing the same sense of distance, the same longing for authentic connection. You are not truly alone. You are part of a larger wave of awakening souls, each in their own cocoon, preparing for emergence. The connections that await you on the other side of this phase will be different. They will be born not out of convenience or shared history, but out of resonance, out of the alignment of frequencies that recognize and support one another. So when the loneliness rises, breathe into it. Let it soften you rather than harden you. Trust that it is creating space where the new can land. Know that every moment you spend in this sacred solitude is not wasted, but woven into the larger pattern of your becoming. One day you will look back and see clearly you were never abandoned. You were being set apart, tuned, refined, so that when the time came, you could step forward into relationships, communities, and experiences that reflect the truth of who you really are. 5. The shifting experience of time. One of the most disorienting yet revealing signs of inner transformation is the way time itself begins to lose its usual shape. What once felt like a steady rhythm of seconds and hours can suddenly stretch or collapse, leaving you unsure whether a moment lasted forever or vanished in an instant. You may find yourself staring out the window, lost in thought, only to realize that hours have passed, as if they were minutes. Or perhaps you feel a single conversation, a single minute, swell into something vast, filled with more depth and presence than entire days of ordinary life. This is not your imagination. It is the direct experience of what Einstein called the relativity of time, filtered through the lens of your expanding awareness. When consciousness awakens, time reveals itself not as a rigid ruler, but as a pliable fabric, bending and shifting with the weight of attention and the vibration of presence. In the old way of living, time feels linear. Like a narrow road, you must walk step by step. It seems there is a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the pressure to keep pace with the ticking clock can become suffocating. But as awareness deepens, you begin to see that time is not a road at all, but a river. Sometimes it slows to a gentle flow, where each drop of water can be felt. Other times, it rushes so quickly that entire landscapes pass before you can take them in. And occasionally, it becomes so still that it feels as though it has stopped altogether, and you are suspended in what mystics and physicists alike call the eternal now. These shifts can be unsettling at first, because they undermine everything you were taught about order and control, but they are also deeply liberating, reminding you that life is far larger and more fluid than the clock on your wall suggests. When time stretches, you are being shown the depth of a single moment. It is as though life is slowing down, so you can taste every detail, every sensation, every breath. It is a reminder that there is no need to rush, that presence itself contains more than the future could ever promise. When time collapses, when days disappear, as if in a blink, it is often a sign that you are being carried by a deeper current, moving swiftly through layers of experience. You no longer need to linger in. The soul wastes no time on what has already been learned. It propels you forward, sometimes faster than your mind can comprehend. Both experiences, the stretching and the collapsing, are part of the same truth. Time is not fixed. It is responsive. It bends to consciousness, not the other way around. This is why you may feel that ordinary schedules and measurements of time no longer hold the same authority. You might struggle to fit yourself into the old rhythms of productivity or social expectation, because your body and mind are learning to move according to resonance rather than routine. This does not mean you are failing at life. It means you are aligning with life's truer rhythm. Think of music. A rigid metronome can keep time, but it cannot create melody. Real music breathes, expands, and contracts, lingers and rushes. Your experience of time is becoming more like music than machinery. It is important, in these moments of disorientation, to trust what is happening rather than resist it. If time feels long, use it to notice the richness of what is present. If time disappears, let yourself rest in the flow, knowing that you are being carried where you need to go. The point is not to master time, but to allow time to reveal its more fluid nature. You are learning to live less as a prisoner of the clock and more as a partner with the unfolding of life itself. As this awareness grows, the fear of running out of time begins to fade. You see that what truly matters cannot be measured in hours or days, but in the depth of presence you bring to each moment. A single breath taken with full awareness can hold more life than years spent in distraction. A single conversation filled with honesty can outweigh countless empty exchanges. This realization does not make you careless. With time, it makes you reverent. You begin to value not how much time you have, but how fully you inhabit it. And perhaps most beautifully, as you grow accustomed to this shifting experience of time, you discover a quiet freedom. You no longer feel bound to race, to prove, to cling. You begin to trust that everything arrives precisely when it is meant to, that no opportunity can pass you by if it belongs to you, and no delay can prevent what is truly yours. In this way, time becomes not an enemy to fight against, but an ally to walk with. It stretches when you need stillness. It collapses when you need to move swiftly, and it dissolves altogether when you step into the eternal present, the timeless space where you realize you were never lacking, never late, always exactly where you needed to be. 6. The creative threshold. There is a stage in transformation that feels like nothing is happening, a strange pause where life appears silent on the outside, but inside, everything is being undone and rewritten. It is what mystics call the threshold, and it resembles the cocoon of a butterfly. To anyone looking from the outside, the cocoon seems motionless, but within, the caterpillar has dissolved into a shapeless soup, its old form completely gone, its future form not yet visible. This is where you may find yourself now. Old patterns have collapsed. The roles you once played no longer feel solid, and yet the new identity has not yet revealed itself. It can feel like being suspended between worlds, too far from the shore you left behind, and not yet close enough to the one that awaits you. But this is not emptiness. This is the most fertile space in existence, the creative threshold, where every possibility is alive, waiting for your awareness to choose. The difficulty is that the mind does not know how to rest in this space. The mind wants clarity, definition, certainty, and it grows restless when it cannot find them. It tells you something must be wrong because the old stability has dissolved. Yet, what is really happening is far more sacred. You are being asked to surrender to a process that cannot be rushed. Just as you cannot dig up seeds every day to check if they are sprouting, you cannot force the new self to appear before its time. The pause is not punishment, it is preparation. It is in this threshold that your cells reorganize, your beliefs shift, and your energy field aligns with the blueprint of what you are becoming. If you can learn to trust this stage, you will discover its quiet beauty. In the stillness, creativity begins to whisper. Ideas that seemed impossible before now drift into your awareness like soft feathers. You may feel new impulses, subtle but insistent, urging you to explore, to create, to imagine. These are not random distractions. They are the first sprouts breaking through the soil of your inner winter. The creative threshold is not about doing more, but about becoming available, clearing the clutter of old patterns so that something fresh can land. It is an invitation to hold space, to listen, to allow. At times, this space can feel deeply uncomfortable. Without the old identity to cling to, you may feel disoriented, as though you are walking through fog. But discomfort here is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that you are dissolving into openness. Think of clay placed on a potter's wheel. At first, it is formless, spinning and soft. It must lose the rigidity of its old shape before it can be molded into something new. In the same way, The threshold asks you to release your grip on who you were, so that life can shape you into who you are meant to become. The most important practice in this phase is gentleness. Do not demand from yourself a perfect vision of the future. Do not measure your worth by productivity or visible progress. Instead, give yourself permission to rest, to breathe, to listen. Trust that beneath the surface, the reorganization is already underway. Trust that life knows what it is doing, even if your mind does not. This is not the end of your story. It is the pause between chapters, the quiet space where the ink dries before the next words appear. And though you may feel alone in this cocoon, you are not forgotten. Every person who has awakened has passed through this same corridor, and countless others are in it now. Learning as you are, to surrender into the unknown. The threshold may feel like suspension, but it is actually connection to the larger rhythm of life, to the collective movement of consciousness that is always unfolding. In your stillness, you are part of something vast. So when you feel lost, when you feel as though nothing is moving, remember the butterfly. What looks like dissolution is the miracle of transformation. What feels like silence is the symphony tuning itself for the song of your next chapter. This is the creative threshold, and though it may feel uncertain, it is the very space where your future takes shape. Trust it, allow it, and let the miracle unfold in its own perfect time. 7. The collective ripple. One of the most humbling realizations on the path of awakening is that your transformation is never only about you. Each time you raise your frequency, even in small, quiet ways, you create a ripple that extends far beyond your personal life, touching the field of human consciousness itself. Science hints at this through ideas like the morphic field, suggesting that when one being learns or evolves, it becomes easier for others to access the same pattern. Spiritually, we have always known this in our bones, that when one heart heals, the world heals a little too. You may think that your choice to practice stillness, to forgive, or to release old pain is insignificant. But it is not. It is like dropping a stone into a vast pond. The ripples move outward, sometimes unseen, but they change the surface of the whole. When you shift into a higher vibration, when you live with more awareness, more compassion, more openness, you quietly alter the atmosphere around you. People may not know why they feel calmer in your presence, but they do. They may not understand why they feel inspired after speaking with you, but something in them has been touched. It is not because you preached or persuaded, but because your state of being communicated more clearly than any words could. Just as one candle can light another without losing its own flame, your inner light spreads naturally, igniting others who are ready to shine. The beauty of this ripple effect is that it does not require perfection. You do not need to be enlightened or flawless to make a difference. Every honest step you take toward greater authenticity contributes. Every time you choose love instead of fear, patience instead of anger, trust instead of control, you are strengthening the collective field that makes it easier for others to do the same. Even your struggles, when faced with sincerity, become part of the medicine. By walking through your own darkness with courage, you create a pathway for others to follow when they face their own. Sometimes you may wonder if the effort matters, especially when the world still looks heavy with conflict, division, and suffering. But the truth is, every inward shift is significant. Collective change is not built from grand speeches or sudden revolutions alone. It is built from countless individual awakenings, one heart at a time. Picture a stadium filled with people in darkness. The moment one person lights a small match, the space begins to change. When another lights theirs, and then another, the glow expands. Soon the whole place is illuminated, not by a single powerful flame, but by the quiet accumulation of many small ones. That is how collective transformation unfolds. Your light may feel small, but it is never wasted. It is also important to recognize that your energy influences not only strangers or society at large, but also the intimate spaces of your life. Your family, your friends, your community all feel the shift. Some may respond with openness, others with resistance, because your change challenges the equilibrium they once relied on. But even resistance is a form of engagement. Even discomfort is evidence that the ripple has reached them. And over time, as you hold steady in your new frequency, the field around you stabilizes, and those who are ready find themselves drawn into the resonance you embody. This ripple extends in ways you may never see. A kind word you speak today may inspire someone to soften toward another. A calm presence you offer in a tense moment may prevent an argument that never happens. A moment of forgiveness you choose may free not only you, but also generations that come after. These are not dramatic gestures, but subtle transmissions of energy that reshape the web of connection we all live inside. So when you doubt your progress, when you feel your growth is too small to matter, remember the truth. Every step you take into greater coherence is a step humanity takes with you. Every time you raise your frequency, you widen the path for others. You are not an isolated traveler on this journey. You are a thread in a vast tapestry. And every thread you strengthen adds beauty and strength to the whole. Trust this ripple, honor it, and know that by simply living your awakening, you are helping to awaken the world. 8. The brain and energy. One of the quiet mysteries of transformation lies in the work your brain does when you think nothing is happening at all. Most people believe the mind burns energy only when focused, when it is solving problems, planning, or studying. Yet neuroscience has revealed something surprising in moments of rest. The brain actually consumes even more energy than in moments of concentration. Beneath the stillness, networks of neurons are firing, reorganizing, and weaving new connections, as if your entire inner landscape were being rewired. This is why fatigue often comes not when you are working hardest, but when you are allowing space for change. The tiredness you feel is not failure. It is simply your nervous system updating itself, creating pathways that can hold a higher state of awareness. Think of it like a city under construction. On the surface, traffic may feel slowed, detours may frustrate you, and familiar routes may no longer be available. But underground, new foundations are being laid, bridges are being built, and what once felt crowded and broken will eventually flow with greater ease. When consciousness begins to expand, the brain must adapt. Old pathways that once carried the weight of fear, doubt, and routine thinking start to dissolve, while new ones, capable of supporting openness, trust, and deeper perception, begin to grow. This process requires enormous energy, and your system prioritizes it even when you would rather feel energetic and clear. So if you find yourself exhausted during periods of inner growth, know that it is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of deep restructuring. Just as a house cannot be renovated without dust and disruption, the brain cannot be rewired without periods of apparent chaos. The mind may resist, insisting that you should be more productive, more efficient, more like your old self. But the truth is that your old self no longer exists, and your brain is faithfully adjusting to the rhythm of the new. It helps to see this not as a breakdown, but as a recalibration. Imagine a musical instrument being tuned. For a moment, the strings sound off, and the notes clash. But this dissonance is not permanent. It is necessary. The tuning requires tension, adjustments, listening, and patience. Your brain is undergoing the same kind of tuning. It is searching for coherence between thought, body, and spirit. And in the meantime, you may feel stretched, tired, or unsteady. That is natural. The body is not designed to leap into higher awareness overnight. It steps gently, one adjustment at a time, until the whole system can hold the new frequency with ease. There is also a paradox here. The very moments when you feel least capable may be the times when the deepest work is happening. A day spent in fatigue, where you feel unable to do anything useful, may in truth be the day when your brain is weaving the strongest new networks. Rest is not wasted time. It is sacred ground for transformation. Just as soil must lie fallow between seasons to regain its strength, your mind requires space and stillness to regenerate. In the silence, in the pauses, in the naps and quiet hours when nothing seems to move, your system is doing its most important work. If you can learn to trust this process, the fatigue itself becomes easier to carry. Instead of judging yourself for not having energy, you begin to honor the body's wisdom. Instead of forcing yourself to return to old levels of productivity, you learn to listen to the subtle cues that invite rest. By giving yourself permission to slow down, you allow the brain to complete its work more gracefully, rather than dragging it through resistance. Over time, you notice the fruits of this trust: greater clarity, sharper intuition, and a sense of calm that does not come from effort, but from coherence. So the next time tiredness arrives like an uninvited guest, try to welcome it as a teacher. See it not as a barrier, but as a sign that the deeper parts of you are rearranging themselves to hold more life, more light, more awareness. Understand that fatigue is not your enemy, but your body's way of protecting the sacred construction taking place within you. One day, when the rewiring is complete, you will realize that what felt like weakness was actually the strength of your system, choosing to slow you down so it could build you up. And in that moment, you will see that the brain was never just an organ of thought, but a living bridge between the old world and the new consciousness rising in you. 9. The transformation around you. As your inner world shifts, the outer world cannot help but respond. Because life is not separate pieces, but one continuous field of energy. Relationships, work, even the technology you touch, begin to behave differently. Reflecting back the frequency you now carry, you may notice that people who once felt comfortable now seem distant, or that conversations which used to hold your attention suddenly feel empty. Work that once defined your sense of worth may begin to feel hollow, while creative impulses you had ignored for years now push their way into the light. Sometimes even the smallest things, your phone glitching, lights flickering, a computer freezing without reason, seem to echo the changes unfolding within you. It is as if reality itself is recalibrating, tuning itself to the energy you now broadcast. This can be unsettling because the familiar no longer feels stable, but it is also a sign of coherence. Your inner evolution is rippling outward, calling everything in your environment to reorganize in harmony with your becoming. In relationships, this often appears as a subtle but undeniable shift. People who share your new resonance feel drawn closer, even if you have just met them, while those who remain tied to the old frequency may feel pushed away, even without conflict. It is not about judgment or rejection, it is simply resonance. Just as two instruments cannot stay in tune if one shifts pitch while the other refuses to adjust, so too, human connections either retune together or drift apart. The beauty of this process is that it clears space for deeper, more authentic connections to form relationships built not on obligation or history, but on genuine alignment. Though painful at times, these transitions are proof that your life is becoming a truer reflection of who you are. In work and purpose, the changes may be just as dramatic. Tasks you once performed on autopilot may suddenly drain you, while opportunities that once seemed impossible begin to feel inevitable. You might find yourself questioning long-held definitions of success, realizing that achievement without resonance leaves you empty, while alignment with your inner truth brings a sense of quiet fulfillment no external reward can match. This can be a confusing stage, because society often measures value by productivity and status. Yet your awakening teaches you to measure by coherence and meaning. Slowly, You recognize that the true work of your life is not about climbing ladders, but about embodying the frequency of who you are. From that place, the outer contributions, whether creative projects, service, or innovation, naturally arise. Even technology and environment respond in curious ways. You may notice that devices malfunction around you when your energy is unsettled, or that they work more smoothly when you are calm and clear. Science may not yet fully explain these phenomena, but they are real to those who live them. They are reminders that your presence is not confined to your body. It extends outward, shaping the space you inhabit. Homes begin to feel different. Old belongings seem heavier or lighter. Certain places become intolerable, while others feel nourishing. This is not superstition, it is sensitivity. Your system is learning to navigate by energy rather than convention, seeking spaces, tools, and people that support the higher state you are anchoring. At the heart of all this is a profound truth. You are becoming a bridge between what was and what is emerging, between possibility and manifestation, between the unseen and the tangible. The field you carry connects worlds, allowing ideas, insights, and potentials to cross into reality. This is why creative visions may come more frequently, why synchronicities appear with uncanny timing, why people are drawn to you without understanding why. You are no longer only a participant in the world, you are a transmitter, a node through which the intelligence of life flows. It is important, in this stage, to hold patience and compassion. Change can feel chaotic when everything around you shifts at once. Old friendships may fade, work structures may collapse, routines may dissolve, and technology may frustrate you. But beneath the apparent disorder is a higher order, weaving itself through every detail. Just as a forest must shed its leaves in autumn to prepare for spring, so must your external world shed what no longer serves, so that the new can take root. Trust this, allow it, and remember that while the surface may feel unstable, the deeper truth is that life is aligning with you in ways you cannot yet see. One day, as you look back, you will realize that these changes were not random disruptions, but necessary recalibrations. The relationships that remained became deeper, the work that emerged became more meaningful, and the environment you built began to reflect the peace and clarity you had cultivated within. What once felt like chaos revealed itself as harmony in disguise, and in that realization, you will understand that you were never merely adapting to change. You were the change itself, the bridge through which possibility became reality. 10. Quantum Superposition. In physics, there is a principle called superposition, the strange and beautiful reality that a particle can exist in many states at once until an observation collapses it into one. It may seem like an abstract scientific idea, but in the depth of transformation, you begin to feel this truth within yourself. You are no longer bound to a single path, a single identity, or a single outcome. Instead, you are standing inside a field of possibilities, each one alive, each one waiting for your awareness to give it form. This is not a mistake or a sign of confusion. It is the natural state of consciousness in transition. You are learning to dwell in the unknown, to hold the tension of many futures without rushing to collapse them too soon. At first, this can feel deeply unsettling. The ego craves certainty and clings to clear answers, preferring the comfort of limitation over the vastness of choice. But the soul understands something the ego cannot, that growth requires openness, and openness means lingering in possibility. When you resist the urge to grasp at quick conclusions, you create space for life to reveal outcomes beyond anything your old mind could have imagined. It is like standing before a garden in early spring. The soil is full of seeds, but you cannot yet tell which will bloom. If you demand to know too soon, you risk uprooting what needs time to grow. But if you wait with patience and trust, the blossoms will reveal themselves in their season. Living in superposition teaches you to embrace paradox. You may feel both strong and fragile, both clear and uncertain, both ready and unprepared. Instead of choosing one and rejecting the other, you begin to notice that both can be true. This capacity to hold opposites without collapsing them into a single answer is one of the greatest strengths of awakened awareness. It allows you to navigate life not through rigid control, but through responsiveness, sensing when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to listen. Life stops being a straight line of decisions and becomes a dance with the field of potential itself. This state also transforms how you relate to time. Instead of racing toward outcomes, you learn to experience the richness of what is unfolding now. Each possibility is alive in this moment, like branches of a great tree stretching in many directions. You do not need to climb them all at once. You only need to stand at the trunk, grounded and open, allowing the right branch to reveal itself when it is ready. The anxiety that once came from not knowing slowly dissolves into a quiet reverence for the mystery. You realize that not knowing is not a void, but a fullness, an abundance of paths, each with its own gift. Of course, living in superposition does not mean passivity. It does not mean drifting endlessly without intention. It means holding intention gently, like a compass, rather than a map. You set your direction by the vibration of your heart, but you allow life to determine the route. This openness allows synchronicities to appear, guiding you in ways logic alone never could. It is why you meet the right person at the right time, why an unexpected opportunity arises when you least expect it, why a sudden inner knowing leads you to turn left instead of right and changes everything. These are not accidents. They are the natural flow of a consciousness that has learned to rest in possibility until the moment of clarity comes. If you can embrace this state, you will find that uncertainty loses its sharp edges. Instead of fearing it, you begin to welcome it as a friend, because you see that it holds the seeds of your becoming. Just as a particle does not rush to collapse into one form, you too can resist the pressure to decide too quickly who you are or where you must go. You can breathe, wait, and trust that when the time is right, your awareness will choose, and the world will shift to meet that choice. Until then, you are free to stand in the richness of all that is possible, to rest in the vastness of potential, and to let life itself reveal the path that matches the deepest truth of who you are. 11. Strange emotions. There comes a moment on this path where the emotions you feel no longer fit into the neat boxes you once knew. It is not joy as you used to define it, nor sorrow in the way you used to carry it. It is not excitement, though your heart may beat faster, nor despair, though you may feel the weight of something shifting. Instead, it is something in between, something wider, vaster, an unnamed presence that fills your chest and spills quietly into your days. It can feel strange at first, like speaking a language you never learned, but somehow understand. This is the sensation of consciousness stretching, expanding beyond the small containers you once lived within. When it first arrives, the mind tries to categorize it. It asks, am I happy? Am I sad? Am I safe? Am I in danger? But this emotion does not answer to labels. It resists the old vocabulary because it belongs to a larger dimension of being. The old framework of feelings was built for survival, for the ego's constant scanning of gain and loss, comfort and threat. What you are touching now is beyond survival. It is the stirring of life itself in its raw, unfiltered form. Imagine standing at the shore when the tide is neither high nor low, when the ocean seems to hold its breath in a space of in-between. The water touches your feet, and you sense the vastness stretching to the horizon. You cannot call it calm. Though it is not violent, you cannot call it still. Though it does not rush, it simply is. That is what these strange emotions feel, like a tide of consciousness moving through you, whispering that you are part of something greater than the narrow story of your mind. Many people mistake this expansion for emptiness. They say, "I feel hollow. I feel like nothing matters." But what feels like emptiness is often the clearing of old walls. When the small rooms of your heart collapse, the open sky feels overwhelming. It takes time for your nervous system to adjust to this openness, to relax into the truth that nothing is wrong. The strange emotion is not a sign of loss. It is the first glimpse of freedom. You may notice that these feelings come without reason. They arise while you are washing dishes, driving to work, or staring at the night sky. And because there is no clear trigger, the mind tries to fix them or make them useful. But the invitation is different. The invitation is to sit with them as they are, without judgment, without needing to explain. In doing so, you begin to build a new relationship with your emotional world, not as a problem to solve, but as a river that carries you toward greater wholeness. Over time, you will see that these emotions are not random. They are the nervous system's way of acclimating to a larger frequency. Just as a violin string vibrates differently when tuned to a new pitch, your inner being hums with a resonance it has never carried before. It feels foreign because it is new, but it is not unsafe. In fact, it is the beginning of safety. At a deeper level, the safety of living in alignment with your true nature, rather than the ego's illusions. When you surrender to these unnameable feelings, they become doorways. They take you beyond the limited spectrum of joy versus pain, gain versus loss, and into the richness of pure existence. You realize that you are not simply a person experiencing moods. You are consciousness itself, learning to feel more of its own expanse. The strange emotions are like cracks in the shell of identity, letting light pour through. So if you find yourself caught in these in-between states, do not panic and do not try to chase them away. Breathe. Place your hand on your heart. Allow yourself to feel, without demanding a name. This is your awareness, expanding beyond the prison of old labels. This is your being reminding you that you are larger than any category, larger than any story. You are stepping into the raw texture of life itself, beyond words, beyond definitions, and beautifully alive. 12. The transformation of intuition. There comes a point in this journey where the way you receive guidance begins to shift. Intuition, once felt like a quiet inner voice or a sudden clear sentence in your mind, starts to take on a subtler form. It doesn't always arrive as words you can repeat or as instructions you can neatly follow. Instead, it comes as impressions, faint yet undeniable sensations that ripple through your body, as if a truth is humming just beneath the surface of thought. You may find yourself knowing something without knowing how you know it. A direction, a decisión, a feeling about a person or place simply arises, unaccompanied by logic or evidence, yet carrying a weight that reason alone cannot dismiss. This is the language of a deeper consciousness. It is not the ego's chatter, nor the conditioned mind repeating old patterns. It is what some call the quantum self, the aspect of you that is already entangled with the future, already woven into possibilities, not yet visible to your eyes. When this aspect of you speaks, it does not use the linear grammar of cause and effect. It whispers through patterns, synchronicities, subtle nudges that seem illogical, until later they unfold with perfect clarity. Think of it as standing near a great ocean. At first, you only notice the obvious waves crashing on the shore. That was how your intuition once spoke, loud enough, direct enough to catch your attention. But as you attune more deeply, you begin to sense the undertow, the shifting currents beneath the surface, the pull of tides far beyond your sight. These subtle movements are no less real than the waves they are. In fact, what shapes them? And so your intuition matures. It shifts from dramatic declarations into quiet, fluid impressions that arise from a larger field of knowing. At first, This can be unsettling. The rational mind demands proof, cause, and explanation. It wants intuition to be a clear sentence, something it can argue with or write down. But this new way of knowing does not fit the mind's demand for certainty. It asks you to trust, to lean into the mystery, to act on a gentle knowing, even when it feels like stepping onto invisible ground. This is not blind faith. It is the natural trust of recognizing that life has already been guiding you all along. Consider those moments when you ignored a quiet nudge and later realized it was pointing you in the right direction. Or those times when you followed a small whisper and it led to a profound unfolding. These are not coincidences. They are glimpses of how your consciousness is already connected to what lies ahead. In quantum physics, there is the idea of non-locality, the way particles can affect each other instantly. Even across vast distances, intuition functions in a similar way. It is your non-local awareness, receiving information not bound by time or space, sending signals from the unseen to the seen. Over time, you will come to cherish this softer guidance. It feels less like a command and more like a dance. It invites you to partner with life rather than control it. Instead of straining for answers, you learn to rest in openness, letting impressions come like wind moving through leaves. Sometimes they guide you forward. Sometimes they ask you to pause. Either way, they remind you that you are never cut off from the flow of wisdom. You are an extension of it. And as you trust this transformation of intuition, your life begins to feel less like a maze and more like a river. You no longer need to figure everything out. You are carried. You learn to navigate not by rigid maps, but by the feel of the current beneath your feet. This is the gift of quantum intuition. It bypasses the noise of doubt and opens you to the subtle dialogue between your present self and the future that is already reaching for you. So when those strange impressions arise, when you just know, without knowing why, do not dismiss them. Sit with them, breathe with them. Let them settle into your body like seeds in soil. They are not random. They are messages from the deeper fabric of your being, reminders that you are more than flesh and thought. You are part of a vast intelligence that moves beyond time, whispering its wisdom into your now, the birth of a new self. All the signs you have been moving through, the weariness in your body, the vivid dreams that linger like echoes of another world, the sense of not fitting into old circles, the strange emotions that defy labels, the sudden bursts of intuition that appear without explanation. None of these are mistakes. They are not evidence that something is broken within you. They are proof that you are expanding, that your consciousness is being stretched to hold more of what you truly are. This is not a crisis of collapse, but a birth in progress. You are not a victim of some random upheaval. You are an active participant in the evolution of your own being. It can be difficult, in the quiet hours, to remember this. The mind clings to the familiar. The ego insists that what is dissolving must be protected at all costs. Yet beneath that resistance, something wiser is at work. It is the intelligence of life itself, a rhythm older than your fears, patiently carving out space for your becoming. Just as a forest clears after fire to make way for new growth, your inner world is undergoing a necessary clearing. What feels like destruction is in fact creation. What feels like emptiness is the room required for fullness to enter. Trusting this process is perhaps the hardest part. To the ego, surrender feels like failure. But in truth, surrender is the doorway through which the new self can emerge. You are not meant to control this transformation with force or logic. You are meant to allow it, to soften into it, to trust that the very currents carrying you know where they are going. This is the wisdom of the universe at play. The same intelligence that orchestrates the movement of stars, the growth of seeds, to the beating of your heart without you lifting a finger. When you trust in that intelligence, something remarkable happens. The loneliness becomes spaciousness. The fatigue becomes rest. The uncertainty becomes possibility. You begin to see that your personal transformation is never just personal. It radiates outward into the collective field. Each time you choose presence over fear, openness over control, you contribute to a shift that makes it easier for others to awaken as well. Your healing becomes a thread in the fabric of humanity's healing. Your expansion becomes a signal that resonates far beyond your own life. And so, even in the moments when you feel small, you are not insignificant. You are a bridge between the world as it has been and the world that is trying to be born. You are part of a larger symphony where every note matters. Even the quiet ones, even the trembling ones. The universe is not asking you to be perfect. It is asking you to be willing. Willing to feel, willing to trust, willing to allow the mystery to move through you. In this space of uncertainty, a new version of you is quietly forming. Not a polished mask or an idealized persona, but a truer self, whole, unguarded, vast enough to embrace both shadow and light. This self does not need to escape life, nor to conquer it. It simply learns to live as part of it, flowing with its rhythms, listening to its whispers, resting in its arms. So if you feel yourself in between, no longer who you were, not yet who you are becoming, breathe. Rest. Trust. The cocoon is not a prison. It is a passage. What you are carrying is not the end of your story, but the beginning of a deeper chapter. And as you allow this transformation to unfold, remember, you are never alone in it. Every shift within you contributes to the great turning of us all. In the stillness of this moment, even as old forms crumble, a new human is being born in you, wider, freer, more open to love. That is the gift of this journey. That is the promise of awakening. And that is why, no matter how uncertain it feels, you can step forward with courage. For life is not against you. Life is unfolding through you, making you more whole with every breath.